welcome to The Curling Show, the podcast that brings you interviews with the sport's top athletes and the people who shape the game. Brought to you by Compete at Curling, the leader in online event management for curling clubs and associations around the world. If you're tired of wasting your time and everyone else's time with paper-based registrations, or if you just want to make it easier for teams to sign up for your events and pay online, then visit competeat.com. That's compete-at.com and contact the people behind it. I will say that I've signed up for one event this year with Compete At, the Asham World Curling Tour Spiel in St. Paul, Minnesota, and I found it to be a seamless, painless process. I'm Dean Gemmel, and in this edition, we kick off the curling season by talking to a guy who's willing to let people know what he's thinking, except when he's on the ice. The guy who makes every flat-footer wish he could throw tuck. Jeff Stoughton, welcome back to The Curling Show.
It's great to be here.
Hey, Jeff, it was nearly a year ago that you were on this podcast, just after starting the season with a new team and having actually just lost the final of the Asham 8-ender Open to Kerry Burtnick, a team that sort of went in a different direction than you as the season wore on. Though I think you probably would have liked to have fared better in the Grand Slams last year. Your team had a good run at the Tim Hortons Brier and had a good win in early April at the Bear Mountain Arena Classic. Is it safe to say that you were satisfied with last season?
Yeah, I think it's safe to say. I mean, I think as a competitive player, I think everybody wants more and more, and you are correct. I mean, our slam record was very disappointing, and that's something we'll certainly address and hopefully rectify come Quebec City at the end of November.
Hey, in a brief CurlTV.com interview, you talked about the fact that you thought the more difficult season for a new team was year two. I tend to agree with you, as we see a lot of teams do well when everything's fresh and then get a little bit stale as they gather some history. Going into this season, are you conscious of that? And has your team talked about ways to avoid a sophomore slump?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think everyone knows the first year is sort of, your honeymoon. No one wants to step on anyone's toes, and sort of everyone toes the line, and, everyone's a little careful what they say and what they do. And second year, just because of because you're so familiar with one another that, sometimes things can get different. Everyone's real personalities start coming out, and it's certainly something we've talked about. And I think because last year was a pretty satisfying year, as you said, that we have something to build on, and I think that's a lot of things that we're working on now leading up to our first event in October is just, making sure we're not complacent, making sure we're doing all the right things and not to fall into that little slump, as they say.
So is your first event the Asham 8-ender Open?
It is, yes.
What do you think of that format? There's a bit of buzz online about the format in that one.
Oh, well, I mean, it's interesting. It certainly provides a great opportunity for, the junior teams and the senior teams to come in and compete against one another till they qualify. And it'll be an interesting format, and I'm assuming they'll fill it. And, for us, it basically is start of our year. We want to. It's great to be at home, and we've had great success there. So we just want to kick it off again with a great start. And I mean, if we happen to do well and play a junior team or a senior team, it'll be a fun game. That's for sure. It's going to be different. If it's a junior team, I think it'll be interesting because they'll be pretty excited about playing. And senior teams, you just never know what might happen. So we're looking forward to it. I mean, it's our first event, and it'll be pretty loose out there and having some fun.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good idea to try something different. I don't know if I totally agree with it, but credit to Arnold for trying new things. Hey, have you guys been on the ice? I mean, the guys in Edmonton are on the ice already. You guys always seem to have a little later start to your season.
Yeah, well, we've been pretty lucky the last couple of years. They have opened up early, and this year is no different. Our high-performance camp here with Connie Laliberty and the MCA has opened up the West Kildonan Curling Club this year, and ice is available, I guess, last week.
So you've been out?
So everyone started on Monday. I haven't been out yet, but I know Ryan and Steve and Rob, actually, they all threw once or twice anyway, for sure. And so we're planning on starting up next week for myself anyway, just to get going. So there is ice, and, it's a long time till you play a competitive game until, for us it's going to be October long weekend. So, we don't want to, we certainly want to get in the mode, but we know it's a long year, and you don't want to get, throw 1,000 rocks before your first event and get all petered out, but we'll take it in stride and just see how it goes.
Hey, 2 years ago you made headlines at a big CCA event with your quotes about Brad Gushu's chances at the Canadian Olympic trials. Last year it was Steve Gould at the Tim Hortons Brier in the headlines, who seemed to be threatening that he might drop the mitts on the ice, start pulling jerseys over heads when the guys played Kevin Martin a second time. He did say later that he was misquoted a bit, but it does seem as though there was some tension between the teams. How much was real?
It was very real. It was quite. It was very interesting. I mean, I don't know where it came from Steve, and that I was kind of surprised because he's usually not quite like that. But we had given the officials fair enough warning throughout the event to tell John that he probably shouldn't be kneeling on the ice as much, and I guess Steve just carried it over the edge there. It was an interesting pregame when we were getting ready because Randy Duthame, our fifth man, is, I don't know, I think he's a yellow belt in Taekwondo or something. And
you had the team stacked then.
Oh, we had him stacked, and he was doing like leg kicks and almost kicking the ceiling in our locker room. So we had lots of fun before the game, and I think there was a little, even the two fifth mans. I mean, Randy didn't even sit with Alberta's fifth man during the game, and for us on the ice, I didn't really notice what was going on, so it didn't bother me, and I don't think it bothered Kevin, but it certainly finally put a buzz into the Brier, because it was a pretty dull Brier leading up to that, and it probably helped out to all the scribes and everyone else being there, so it made it a little more exciting. But Ryan and John are good friends off the ice, and we all know those guys, and there's been nothing said or done after the fact, so...
Between Steve last year, Marcel Rock a few years ago at the Winnipeg Brier, threatening to go into the crowds to silence a heckler.
Right.
Then you've got Ben Hebert on Kevin's team, who's a big guy, former football player. Kevin Cooey's got Nolan Thiessen, another big guy. It sort of goes south with Craig Saville, who might just be wiry strong, but I'm starting to think lead is an enforcer role. Do you think it's like becoming the Dave Semenko position?
Yeah, you just never know. I mean, the crowd control and everything else in between. It's kind of fun. I mean, they know what their role is. They sort of police what's going on. They know how to fire up the team, and they do whatever it takes to get everyone in the right mood and get everyone going, and obviously sweep their butts off. So it's
right.
It's a great position, and all of those players are all great players and do their roles or things or attitudes or whatever they need to do to make things work.
Maybe that was Brad Goush's concern with Jamie Korab. He didn't think he was a big enough enforcer or something to stand up to Steve.
Yeah, you just never know. But
what's your take on that move?
I don't know his new player, so it's hard to say. I think all of us were surprised that he was changing him because Jamie's a great guy off the ice. I've obviously never played with him on the ice, so I don't know what he's like to play with. But we've had good times with him off the ice and never had a problem with him on the ice either. So it's hard to say what the problem was, and maybe the team was going in that direction anyway, and it was just something they were waiting until the end of the year to do, which, I mean, they had a great run at the Brier, and were close on a couple other events, so it's always interesting when a top team makes some changes, and I don't blame them. They're trying to find the right mix to get back to those Olympic Games, and,
right.
And I guess they just felt that Jamie wasn't the right guy, and I'll never blame anyone for that. I mean, it is, in theory, it's still a game, but it's becoming a very important game to a lot of guys, and I can't blame them for trying to put the best team together you can.
Yeah, I mean, when you put the time in, you want to make sure you're putting what you think is the best effort, whether it's whatever that chemistry might be. Hey, you talked about the Tim Hortons Brier in 2007 being a bit dull. What about the playing surface? I mean, we know about all that, all the picks. What's your theory on what went wrong?
That's hard to say. I mean, we were fortunate enough. I mean, we did have our share, but we didn't seem to have any that really cost us a big game, so we didn't complain as much. But, I mean, they had everything from the wrong ice, or the wrong water, I should say, at the start of the event, to opening doors from the Prime Minister to who knows what else was going on out there. And to Kevin's point, I mean, I did see some dust fly when some of the rocks hit together, so I guess all that combined, and the ice was a little bit soft, so it definitely held the debris.
Right.
We've always said, and I don't know, we've suggested it to the CCA and even to some of the ice makers, is why even bother putting carpet down? We all have grippers and sliders. Why don't you just paint it?
Right.
I mean, because the carpet, I mean, they pull out that carpet from who knows where every year, and they vacuum it. But I mean, I think painting it blue or black on the ice would just look as good, and the guys are then constantly on ice. And we've suggested that, and nothing's happened. But I guess the officials have to be careful out there they don't fall. But if you paint it up, it would look like a carpet anyway. It would look pretty good, and that way there'd be no fibers coming on that ice at all.
That's a good point, actually. I never really thought about the problem with the carpet. You know, I interviewed Shorty Jenkins a while ago, an interview I'll post sometime, but
Yeah.
he said that the beams needed to be wiped down.
Well, I'm not sure if is it because we were yelling so much, all the hot air was going to move the dust around more than it usually does during a day, but
I think that was it.
Yeah, who knows? It was interesting to say the least, because it wasn't what I think all of us were accustomed to or expecting, because we know Merck can put in some pretty darn good ice.
And he did in Edmonton. I mean, the ice there was great.
Proved it the year before, proved it with the women's. I mean, even I'm sure he was as frustrated as we were, because it hurts when there was definitely 2 or 3 games out there that were lost because of rocks that went the wrong way and no one was expecting it. So it's as a curler, that's the most frustrating thing out there, is when something like that. I can accept throwing it bad, throwing a draw through the house, but when you're throwing an open hit or a tap back and it hits the boards halfway down, that's pretty frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, not to discredit your efforts at the Brier, but I think the only good thing was that I think Glenn Howard's team was the best team that week.
Oh, they played great.
Out, so.
They certainly, yeah. I mean, it never came down to like when we played him in the semis, or when he played Brad in the 1-2 game and played him again in the final, that there never was an issue of a pick cost either team a game.
Right.
The game, and we look back and said there wasn't anything in our games that cost us shots, so we were pretty fortunate.
It probably cost Northern Ontario against Brad Gushu, but that was about it, I think, in terms of single shots.
Yeah, Pat Simmons was playing Gushu, and he had a tap back to lay 2, and it hit something, and Gushu had a shot for 4 and made it. So it's there's lots of turning points like that in a game, especially on skips rocks. Obviously they cost the most.
Moving on, Asham World Curling Tour issues, a couple swirling around the off season. First, to move to 8 ends. What's your opinion on the shorter format?
Well, I'm still sort of a traditionalist, I guess, because I'm so old now, but. 10-end games have sort of been the norm, and I certainly understand the reasoning why, and, we're just going to have to accept that's the way it is, except when you get, of course, to your play-downs and provincials and Brier and go back to the 10-end format. I think this year, because people have finally played it, I'm of the opinion that I think it's going to be more defensive than offensive. I think guys will just try and keep it, now you've cut it down to 8 ends. If you keep the first couple ends clean, or even the first 3 or 4, now you're shutting it down to a 4-end game, and I honestly think that gives an advantage to maybe a weaker team who can't draw as well. So, I think, I'm not sure if the Black Book of Curling has got those stats on 8-end games or not, because I know there's a lot of talk about whoever scored first seemed to win the, 75% of the time or 65% of the time, whatever it was. And, so that makes it pretty important to get off to a good start, so you may see teams not taking the chance to try and steal in the first couple ends and just play it open and take your chances later. So,
one thing I've sort of been on the fence on it, to be honest, but a lot of talk about the TV coverage. One thing I don't understand is why we've gone to this thing where the big delays between every end so that we show the lead rocks. I think we could easily come back and do the quick sequence editing to show what happened while we were away at commercials.
Yeah, they used to do that way back when, and I threw that when they were talking about 8 ends because of the TV time. I threw back to saying, well, you certainly don't need to show every single shot. I know how important what the free guard zone is, but the first 5 ends, you can certainly do a catch-up.
Well, yeah, you could come back and show the first 4 rocks pretty quickly, just like here's where they went.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to say that leads rocks aren't important, because we know they are, and that we don't want to, a couple ends you could do it at a different time, so.
I was surprised too, because you can certainly do a lot during the commercial time. You could have a good 10 minutes gone already of an end and just be down to thirds rocks when you come back.
And I don't think the players. I don't think you like standing around, do you, waiting?
I don't personally. It's something you get used to, and it's something you have to deal with. You sort of have to turn it on and off because it does drag the game out. But most of the guys want to go like 30, 45 seconds in between is more than enough to say to the guys, sorry about that, or great shot, or whatever it happens to be, walk down to the other end and start going. But these 3-minute breaks, you're standing around, you just, for a player, there's no flow to the game. You kind of get stuck. You play one end and then you stop. And I know as a player, when you play an end and you score your 2 or you steal your 1, you just want to keep going.
Right.
Because, momentum is a little bit of the game, and a lot of the psychological side of it is, they're down and out, and now you just jump on them right away, and they've got those 3 minutes to think about it and get back into the game. So as a player, I would prefer just to keep going than having big delays. probably a minute between ends would be sufficient, and then start. But these 3.5 minute timeouts, it's a long wait.
Yeah, I mean it is. It seems interminable for the players, but.
Yeah.
Hey, the other issue, the ranking system for the order of merit, which gives points for teams that stay intact, but also sees leads and seconds carry a smaller percentage of points with them than skips and thirds. What's your opinion on this formula?
As it should be. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, don't forget, Steve's a big guy.
Yeah. I'm sure I'll hear that one. I was surprised. I thought, why not just 20% across the board? 20% if your team stays together, and then 20% a guy. It makes it fairly simple to figure out.
Right.
And if they even wanted to go further, they could have said, well, if 3 guys stay together, you get your 15% instead of 20% for the team.
Right.
And again, not to be frustrated about it, and I'm sure some guys are. I mean, there was never a feedback of, hey, guys, what do you think we should do? I know not everyone responds to emails, but if they would have sent out saying, here are some suggestions, here's 5 options, here's 10 options, could you pick one? And if no one responds, then it's your own fault for not having an opinion. But I mean, I don't think, I never heard of anyone knowing that was going to be the change or where it came from.
That's interesting to hear from you, because I think a lot of observers, I mean, you're one of the early proponents of the tour. I mean, a lot of observers would think you'd be a guy who's in on all this stuff, but you weren't consulted.
No, and I think, and it was obviously between the CCA and the players, or the Players Association. But yeah, I think all of us were surprised, especially when you saw the lower percentage for front end. I mean, oh my God, what were they expecting was going to happen? That everyone was going to go, yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, they just sort of dropped it out there.
It's a great thing for thirds and skips. We should start demanding, we should get more of the payout when we win some prize money, I think.
Well, there have been rumors of that in the past.
Yeah, obviously we're more important than them. So.
Right.
So it's, I was surprised. I thought 20% across the board would have been pretty simple, and if you keep 3 guys, you get 15 for your team.
I like Scott Pfeiffer's formula too, where you would lose a certain percentage if you went up in position, because I thought that was fair. If a guy got a lot of points at lead and then started skipping a team, maybe he shouldn't take all those points.
That's true. It becomes complicated because, I mean, you're right. I mean, if you took 2 guys, even a third and a lead, and they formed their own team as a skip and third, and, they might have a lot of points to bring forward, and it's not the marquee team that you're expecting, and they're in the slams, and you've got a young team that's been playing their butts off, and they're just missing out because they don't have enough points. I mean, where do you draw the line? It's a very good point, actually. It's a great idea, and same thing. I mean, it seemed like a simple fix from the start, and when we saw the percentage differences, we just about dropped. So
the thing I don't understand now is there is a lot of, I sense a lot of disappointment with it, and it would be, to me, a relatively easy thing to fix.
Yeah, I mean, no one started curling yet.
Exactly.
And no offense to the teams lower down, I think they'd have a better chance of getting in there. I don't think and honestly, it's not going to affect probably those top 10 that are in there now with their points. It may change it up a little bit, but I don't know. Like I said, I was surprised that it got thrown out there that quickly, and no one really was consulted about it.
Well, we'll see if maybe cooler heads prevail and some people get rethink things. Hey, finally, Jeff, your team brought out an old-school high-five routine at the end of games last year. Now, you've described yourself as a stoic player on this show before, so quite honestly, it did strike me a bit odd the first time I saw it. How did it start, and will we see it again this season?
Yeah, it's something we sort of did throughout the year. The guys, we got a bunch of these young punks on the team now, and they have to do something to release all this pent-up tension that they build up during a game. So, just kidding, guys. But it was just something after a win that we started doing it earlier on in the year, and felt good for everybody, and carried it on. They started doing after losses, and I said, "Come on, guys, let's not get carried away here."
So be honest. How long did it take you to get comfortable with it?
Well, probably the first event, wherever someone started to do it. You know what? And to be honest, I think I actually started it on the team.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, I think I did. Well, it's fun with the new guys, and you want to win, you want to do well, and I think it just sort of makes them realize that I'm excited about the game and want to win, and it's really good that way. I think they enjoyed it. We had a good run in the provincials, and when you start doing something goofy like that, you can't stop, can you, when things are going well?
Well, good on you for it, although I'm glad to hear you're not doing it after losses.
No, I drew the line. I think they did it once, and I looked at them like, are you guys nuts? So I think that stopped pretty quick.
All right, Jeff, we'll end with the run back.
Sure.
All right, your corn broom supply.
It's still there. We have someone that can make them for us here in Winnipeg. So we.
What is it, an Amish farmer somewhere or something?
Something like that. It's a secret. We can't tell. We don't tell you. So no, and we usually get, well, probably one every 2 years I would go through. So I think I'm still good for this year.
The possibility of winning a Tim Hortons Brier in Winnipeg and playing in a Ford World Championship less than 2 hours away in Grand Forks.
Be thrill of a lifetime.
The new CEO of the Canadian Curling Association.
Good luck to him. I mean, I haven't heard of him, but good luck, and I hope things go well.
Well, I think I'm going to interview him next week. So
perfect.
We'll see what his thoughts are.
Yeah.
The recently passed Doug Maxwell.
The curling world has lost a pioneer of the game.
The field for this year's TSN Skins game.
Oh, interesting.
Interesting. I'll bet you're thinking it's missing one team, though, right?
I do, and it's not my team.
Oh, really? Okay.
Well, no. I never expected it. I thought Furby's team would be there before whomever you want to pick out of those guys.
Yeah.
So it really, I was surprised. I never expected us to be in it. I didn't think we would have deserved to be, and I thought Furby's team would have been more deserving. But that's just my opinion.
And finally, the red brick slider.
Still there, still hanging on to it.
I think, are you the only reason that Arnold keeps making them?
It could be. But, I mean, a lot of guys use them on their flat foot. Some of them put them on the back, or some of them put them on the front. What they say is that the advantage of it is that once it tracks, it tracks.
Right.
So, the drifting issue is not there with the red brick, and it's, as fast as I can find it. It's fast enough for me, anyway.
Well, yeah, I don't think everybody has your timing and leg drive. But anyways, I used them growing up as a kid, but I've switched to steel as I get older here. So.
Well, there you go. That's very true. Very quick steel, that's for sure.
Yeah. All right, Jeff. Hey, thanks for your time. Oh, you know what? I almost forgot to give everybody a chance to name sponsors. I don't know who you guys have on tap this year, but let me know.
Huron Windows is our title sponsor, and we've got Direct Cash, Performance Brooms, Asham Curling Supplies, and who knows who else in the next months to come.
All right. Thanks, Jeff. Good luck this season, and have a good start in October.
Thanks, Dean. We'll talk to you later.
That's Jeff Stoughton on The Curling Show, brought to you by Compete at Curling, the leader in online event management for curling clubs and associations. Compete at is a lot more efficient than paper-based registration and makes it simple and quick for teams to sign up and pay online. And because it's efficient, Compete at Curling helps reduce the workload for those dedicated folks who plan and run events. You know them, that small group of people in every club and association who always end up doing such a large amount of the work. To find out more, visit CompeteAt.com or visit thecurlingshow.com and click on the link to their site. As always, thanks for listening. Here's Black Pudding.